Pumpkin guts clung to my fingers like secrets I hadn't told. Luna was elbow-deep in hers, her tongue poking out the corner of her mouth, concentrating like it mattered. Evan, being 6, mostly stabbed his pumpkin like it owed him money. I smiled and corrected his grip for the 10th time. The front porch glowed in orange and purple, our spiderweb lights blinking like tiny eyes. It was shaping up to be a decent Halloween. Then my phone buzzed. "Mom," the screen read. I hesitated. Only a second. But that second pulled the warmth from the room. "Hey," I answered, wiping my hand on a paper towel. Her voice came smooth, too smooth. "Ilara, sweetie. We need to talk." My stomach folded in on itself. She started soft. "This year's just too tight for extras." Extras? We've all agreed it's best to keep things simple. The family's cutting back. My heart didn't beat faster. It got quieter. That always scared me more. "You've been spending more than usual," she added. "We're just worried. It feels like you're not thinking long-term. Holidays aren't everything." I nodded, though she couldn't see me. "I understand." I didn't. Luna held up her pumpkin proudly, 3 teeth, crooked eyes. "Look, Mommy." "Beautiful," I whispered, watching the smile on her face and feeling mine slip. Mom went on about collective responsibility, about teaching kids values. She said it like she was doing me a favor. She didn't ask if I needed help. She told me we were all struggling, as if my kids and I were just another weight to balance. I told her we'd figure something out. I told her thank you. And then I hung up. She used to do this on birthdays. When I was 11, it was not enough cake for everyone. When I was 16, it was gas money's tight this week. Always a reason. Never a solution. I looked around the living room. Luna and Evan kept decorating, taping up little paper ghosts, not noticing the shift in air. I didn't have the heart to say it was cancelled. So I smiled. Later that night, after they were asleep, I sat in silence. The kind of silence that felt full of echoes. Why now? Why cancel this? We weren't asking for anything. I hadn't asked for help in years. I made rent. I bought the costumes. I didn't even invite anyone over. It wasn't about money. Not really. It was about control. Again. I lit one of the pumpkin-scented candles on the table. Watched the flame flicker once, then die out like it changed its mind. Funny. When I was 9, Mom canceled my party because no one RSVP'd. I believed her until I found the RSVP cards in the trash. When I was 13, my brothers went to Disneyland. I stayed home. She said I needed to learn responsibility. But what I really learned was this: if you're quiet long enough, people assume you agree. Maybe I wasn't the poor one. Maybe I was the disposable one. Maybe I was the one they counted on to not complain. I'd held on to every excuse like it was scripture. But now, I couldn't stop replaying the tone in her voice. The way she said the family like I was just a cost center. This Halloween might be quiet. But I wasn't going to be. I texted Casey. "Guess what's canceled?" Again. Her reply came fast. "Want to bet they're doing something else instead?" I didn't answer. I stared at my laptop screen. Hovered the mouse over my email. I knew how to check. I knew how to find out. But not yet. If I'm wrong, I told myself, I'll apologize. But if I'm right... I stood up. My foot landed on one of Evan's paper ghosts. The sound it made was barely a whisper, but the crumple echoed all the way through me. It flattened under my heel. Have you ever been guilt-tripped into thinking your feelings were too expensive? Sometimes love doesn't ask for sacrifice. It demands silence. And sometimes, silence breaks. What holiday memory still makes you angry? The house was still. I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of tea gone cold and a phone I kept refreshing for no reason. The silence felt tight, like it was holding its breath. I should have been asleep, but my brain wouldn't unhook from that call. My mother's voice, so even and measured, still echoed. Then the ping came. A bank alert slid across the top of my screen. I tapped it out of reflex. Suspicious transaction, 6 tickets, Paris, France, $12,642.80. My heart thudded once, then seemed to forget what to do next. Fraud. It had to be fraud. I clicked into the full email. My name sat there under the account holder field. Ilara Vance. My card. My email. I blinked, clicked again. Refreshed the browser like it would change. It didn't. I only had 2 active credit cards. One, I kept locked away for emergencies. The other? The shared one. The one I let my parents use in case of medical bills or grocery gaps, back when they said they were trying to rebuild after the recession. They'd never abused it. Until now. No one borrows without asking. Not family. Right? I opened my banking app and scrolled through recent transactions. It was there. A chunk of digits that looked like a punch to the chest. The booking agency's name next to the charge. Airfare. 6 tickets. I closed my eyes. 6. That number clawed at me before I even knew why. I called the airline. My voice was steady, professional, like I was asking about the weather. But my fingers gripped the edge of the counter like the house was tilting. The hold music played for 2 minutes and 13 seconds. Then a woman answered. Hi, this is Janine. How can I help you today? I need to confirm a booking made yesterday. It was under the name Gerald Vance. Just a moment. I tapped the counter. 1, 2, 3. Yes, I see it. 6 first-class tickets to Paris, departing in 9 days. May I ask your relationship to the traveler? I'm his daughter. Okay. Let me read you the listed passengers. I braced myself, even though I didn't know what for. Gerald Vance. Margot Vance. Tom Vance. Diane Vance. Henry Vance. Ella Vance. That was it. No Ilara. My voice came out flat. No Ilara Vance? No, ma'am. I didn't speak. Didn't breathe. I can help you dispute the charge if needed, Janine offered gently. Not yet, I said. I'm just gathering information. I hung up. My hand hovered over the screen. I could have thrown the phone. I didn't. I walked to the living room, stared at the ghost decorations and the cheap streamers that Evan had begged for. 6 tickets. First class. On my card. And I wasn't one of them. There had been other things, sure. Margot sending birthday gifts late, or forgetting Luna's ballet recital. But this? This was planned. Financial. Deliberate. It was erasure, not oversight. I sat back down and pulled up the itinerary again, screenshot it, saved it to a new folder on my desktop. Folder name, receipts they forgot I could keep. I had just renamed the last file when Luna patted in, sleep-tousled and holding a sheet of paper. "Mommy, look," she said, handing me her drawing. "It's us. In a rocket ship. You, me, and Evan." I stared at it for a long second before forcing a smile. "You're such a good artist." "We're going to the moon," she whispered. "Just us." She kissed my cheek and shuffled back to her room. I looked at the rocket, the 3 stick figures. Maybe they did leave me behind. But I was still moving. I called Casey next. It rang twice. "You're up late," she said, teasing. "Can you talk?" Immediately serious. "What happened?" "They used my card," I said. 6 tickets. Paris. I'm not on them. There was a pause. "Your parents?" I nodded like she could see me. "My dad booked it. The account shows his name." "You sure it wasn't an accident?" "They used my emergency card, Casey. The one only they have. Without asking. And didn't include me." Another pause. "Then, they left you off on purpose." "It's not a mistake." I stared at the screen. "You know what this is, right?" she said. "It's identity theft." I didn't answer. "You could press charges." "Not yet," I whispered. "I want to see how far they're willing to go." It was nearly 2 in the morning when I walked back into the kitchen. The pumpkins in the window looked small. Almost silly. I reached for the one on the far right and took it down. Left the rest. I opened my laptop again. Pulled up every transaction from the last 3 months. Started tagging. Grocery runs. Streaming subscriptions. Travel bookings. Gift cards. Things I didn't buy. This wasn't just a forgotten invitation. This was a cover-up. I clicked to the calendar. Highlighted the flight date. 9 days. Let's see who packs first. Have you ever found out someone used your money? To leave you behind? Would you confront your family, or watch to see what they do next? What's the worst financial betrayal you've faced from someone you trusted? The scent of brewed coffee filled the kitchen, but it didn't reach me. My eyes were still heavy, my hands slow. I sat down in front of my laptop like it was ritual now, open Facebook, scroll, pretend the world was still normal. Then I saw it. Gerald, Margot, Tom, Diane, and their kids, standing at the airport in matching hoodies, grinning under fluorescent lighting. A wide group selfie. Everyone with carry-ons. Everyone smiling. The caption read, "Family trip of a lifetime, together again." Beneath it, a hashtag, "Full Vans crew ready for takeoff." I didn't move. The mug in my hand cooled until it matched the room. I clicked the photo. Zoomed in. Tom had a neck pillow around his shoulders. Diane had a pumpkin-themed tote. Margot looked years younger in that light. I refreshed the page. It was still there. They hadn't just excluded me. They documented it. Celebrated it. They called it full. My laptop chimed. A message from Diane. "Hope you're doing okay. Just wanted to say, this trip was last minute. You're not mad, right?" Sparkling heart. I read it twice. No sorry. No explanation. Just a buffer. A defense, tossed like a blanket over a fire. I stared at the blinking cursor, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Then I opened my journal app instead and typed. They asked if I was mad. Not if I was okay. I drafted a reply, sharp, clean, honest. Then I deleted it. Closed the tab. My silence wouldn't be a gift this time. It would be my statement. I tried calling Tom. Speakerphone rang once, twice, then straight to voicemail. I tried again. The same. My eyes drifted back to the photo. I remembered a time Tom had maxed out his card on concert tickets and I'd quietly paid the bill. No fanfare. No payback. He was always the golden boy. The prince of the house. And me? I was the one who didn't ask for much, didn't make noise, didn't ruin group photos. I called Diane. No answer. Ghosted by blood. I leaned back in my chair and let the weight of it settle. This wasn't a miscommunication. This wasn't a moment. It was a pattern. It was design. I opened the Photos app and began scrolling backward. Luna's first birthday, no comment from Margot. Evan's preschool graduation, just a heart emoji. Then I saw Diane's baby shower post, Margot's comment glowing, my heart is bursting. I can't wait to hold this little miracle. I kept going. Tom's vacation in Tahoe, Margot gifted him the trip. My last birthday? A vanilla-scented candle. Unwrapped. I began deleting photos. Quietly, methodically. The Paris picture, now cross-posted to my timeline by some algorithm, was the first to go. Digital spring cleaning, I muttered. Then I opened a new folder, legal proof. I added screenshots of the messages. The charge confirmation. The photo tag. Names. Dates. Times. Let them smile. I'd keep the truth. I closed the folder just as Evan walked in. He rubbed his eyes. Mom? Yeah, sweetheart? Why aren't we going to Paris too? I paused, then smiled gently. Because sometimes people forget who their family really is. He nodded like it made sense. Then reached into his hoodie pocket. Here. He peeled a sticker from a sheet and handed it to me. A cartoon bat, grinning wide. So your laptop won't feel left out, he said. I placed it next to the webcam lens, right beside the spot where a smudge never quite cleaned off. Invisible. But seen. Not to them. To him. To her. To me. Let them have their photos. I'll keep the truth. Have you ever seen a photo that made you feel erased? What would you do if your family proudly posted pictures of a trip they excluded you from? Tell me about a time you realized someone didn't consider you part of the group. The kitchen was still. The kind of still that makes a clock tick louder than it should. I stood barefoot on the tile, my phone glowing like a dare in my palm. My thumb hovered over her name, Mom. I'd rehearsed this call silently, over dishes, over laundry, over every breath that came after the Paris photo. But now, in the hush of my house, my heart knocked like a guilty guest. I pressed call. 1 ring. 2. Darling. Her voice burst through like sunshine over rot. How are the kids? I didn't respond to that. Did you buy 6 tickets to Paris? Silence. The kind that takes shape. The kind that doesn't rush to fill itself. Oh, sweetheart, it was. Last minute. A flash deal. They didn't have enough seats. I stared at the pumpkin lights reflected in the window glass. It was a group rate, I said, calmly. It says so on the receipt. She sighed, the way someone does when accused unfairly. Alara, you've been so overwhelmed lately. We thought, maybe, you needed the break. The break from what? I asked, voice steady. You've just been so busy. With the kids. With things. Lies used to come with apologies, I said, more to myself than her. Now they come with justifications. Her tone shifted, softened like syrup over cold pancakes. We didn't think you'd want to spend Halloween flying. You always loved making it special for the little ones. There it was, the twist. Always spun to feel like concern, always sticky with guilt. I see, I said. Don't be upset, she added quickly. We didn't mean to hurt you. Noted, I replied, and ended the call. The phone didn't stay silent for long. It rang again. Dad. I answered without a word. Honey, he said, warm and calm like a man narrating a documentary. Don't twist this. You've always said you hate travel during the holidays. No, I corrected, I said I hate delays. I never said I hated family. There was a pause. A sigh. We're not villains, Alara. You're being dramatic. I glanced at my second phone beside the fruit bowl and tapped record. I'm not being dramatic, I said. I'm being specific. He kept talking, the same rhythm, the same tone. The kind that makes you question what you know. The kind designed to wear down. I didn't argue further. I didn't hang up. I let him talk, and I let the phone record. Afterward, I replayed the call. Not for the content. For the tone. For how smoothly denial wore its face. I created a new folder on my desktop. Labeled it, Voice Logs, Vance. They had rewritten history too many times. This time, I'd keep the draft. I reached into my filing cabinet, pulled out an old photo. Me and Mom, at my college graduation. I flipped it over and wrote, in ink that wouldn't smudge, pre-lie. Then I locked it away. Later, I checked on Luna. She was curled beneath her comforter, a paper ghost clutched in her hand. It said BOO in purple crayon. You'll never have to earn love, little moon, I whispered, brushing hair from her face. In the bathroom mirror, I saw her reflection overlapping mine. The girl who wanted to be included. And the woman who no longer needed permission. They lied to protect their comfort. I told the truth to protect my peace. I opened my banking app and transferred $5,000 to a private savings account. Labeled it Next Chapter. Have you ever been told, you're too sensitive, just for asking a question? What would you do if your parents made you doubt your own memory? Comment with the time you caught someone lying, and they acted like you were the problem. The house had gone still hours ago. Only the faint hum of the refrigerator kept me company as I sat in front of two glowing screens, one laptop for my emails, one for my bank statements. On the table were printouts covered in yellow highlighter and coffee stains, the quiet mess of a person trying to make sense of betrayal. I started sorting through every transaction from the past 6 months. Grocery bills. Utilities. Then things I didn't recognize. Payments to a Green Lake property group. Transfers marked as family reimbursement. I dug deeper. Each pattern was a breadcrumb leading somewhere they didn't want me to find. There it was, a down payment on a vacation home. Under Margot's name. Paid through my account. My pulse drummed in my ears. The math wasn't accidental, it was orchestration. They hadn't been leaning on me. They'd been living off me. I stared at the list and whispered, they told me family first. But whose family were they talking about? Have you ever discovered you were the one always paying, even when no one thanked you? I sent a message to Casey Monroe at midnight, this isn't budget trouble. This is betrayal. It didn't take long for her to reply. Want to hear something familiar? She wrote. Then she called. Her voice cracked with empathy. When my mom said she needed 12 grand to fix the kitchen, I wired it the same day. 3 years later, I saw photos of her vacation home, brand new kitchen, but in a house I'd never been invited to. Silence filled the line between us. You're not weak for asking for the truth, she said finally. You're strong for surviving without it. I leaned back in my chair. Somewhere between her words, something shifted. I wasn't a victim sorting chaos anymore. I was an investigator assembling a case. I thought back to the night I helped pay Tom's rent, because Mom forgot again. I remembered the gratitude that never lasted, the apologies that always came too late. Sometimes the person who saves you also trains you to stay silent. I opened the county records site and typed in my parents' zip code. A few clicks later, there it was, a new address under Margot Vance. A mortgage registered 6 months ago. The automatic payments came straight from my shared account. My throat went dry. This wasn't just a moral failure, it was theft wrapped in nostalgia. I called Casey again. It's not over, I said. It's happening right now. She exhaled slowly. Then it's time to stop being their safety net. I started taking screenshots. Property listing. Mortgage records. Payment statements. I saved the house photo with the bright red sold sign and labeled the file fraud in pastel suburbia. I wasn't angry at Margot yet. I was angry at my trust. I grabbed a sticky note and wrote something for Luna, Mom will always make promises. I'll make boundaries. I placed it under her art magnet on the fridge. Then I opened a new folder on my desktop, 2025 Vance Audit. Inside, I made subfolders, statements, emails, photos. The organization felt almost holy. Controlled. I was reclaiming the narrative, byte by byte. I set my email filters to autosave anything with my name coming from Margot or Tom. I drafted a letter to the bank, dispute, unauthorized transactions under account ending 3491. I hesitated. My finger hovered over the keyboard. For the first time in years, the silence in my house didn't scare me. It protected me. They taught me to fix, I whispered. Now I'm going to make them fix. What's the bravest thing you've ever done with evidence? The lamplight flickered as I stepped into the living room. The Lego tower still stood where Evan left it, tall and uneven but proud. Beside it, Luna's crayon ghost smiled from the bulletin board. I picked it up and taped it higher, right above my desk. Beneath it, I wrote in pen, reminder, I matter. By tomorrow, I'd send the letter. By next week, they wouldn't own my silence, or my receipts. I closed my laptop, inhaled deeply, and said it out loud just once, I'm not acting out of revenge. I'm reclaiming my ledger. The cursor blinked like a heartbeat on the screen. At dawn, I hit send. And the first shockwave began. If you found out someone you trusted used your money and called it family support, would you speak up or stay silent? Share your story. Because silence only protects the wrongdoing. The night pressed against the windows like a held breath. I sat at my desk, the blue glow from my laptop slicing through the dark. My inbox was cluttered with alerts, name mismatch, suspicious authorization, unverified identity. I'd seen these before, brushed them off as banking glitches, minor errors. Tonight, I opened them all. Halfway down the list was one email that stopped everything: loan approval under your SSN, signed Tom V. Jr. For a moment, I thought I misread it. Then the words sharpened into focus. My name. My social. His signature. The air in the room changed. My pulse slowed into something deliberate, dangerous. I stared at the screen until my reflection became clearer than the text. 20 years of helping, understanding, letting things slide. Every unspoken favor. Every apology I'd swallowed. The invisible ledger I had been keeping all my life finally turned red in my mind. Audre Lorde once said, "Your silence will not protect you." And for the first time, I understood what that meant, not as poetry, but as survival. I closed my laptop with a sharp crack. The lampshade tilted. The world shifted. I reopened it, this time with intent. My cursor hovered over a folder I'd labeled years ago, just in case. Inside were scanned tax forms, bank correspondence, legal PDFs. And there, tucked between utility statements, was a 1040 form filled out in Margot's handwriting, under my name. I clicked through the files. Property deeds. Transfer receipts. A lien. My name in her looping cursive, her tidy for family use only scribbled in the margins. I remembered her voice, sweet and dismissive, just one more signature, honey. We're all in this together. No, we weren't. This wasn't shared hardship. It was harvest. They had plowed my trust, planted deceit, and built their comfort out of my silence. My blood hummed like electricity. I began exporting every file, PDFs, statements, property records, encrypting them with a password only I knew. I renamed the master folder. They thought I wouldn't look. Have you ever found your name attached to something you never agreed to? Because finding it there feels like losing part of your identity twice. I stood up, walked through the dim hallway past Evan's Lego tower and Luna's ghost drawing still taped to the wall. No more silent nights, I whispered. Back at my desk, I drafted an email to the bank. Subject: Dispute and Audit Request. Body: I am contesting all unauthorized transactions made under my name in the last 36 months. Please initiate a full account audit immediately. I hit save, not send. Not yet. I texted Casey, I'm ready. Will you wait while I finish this? Her reply came almost instantly, always. I scrolled to my contacts, found Margot's name, and pressed delete. Small act. Big release. It's not vengeance, I thought. It's justice. It's boundary. Then the phone rang. Tom. His face filled the screen, perfectly calm, practiced. Behind him, I could see the bunk beds, a sliver of Margot's voice in the background. What are you doing, Ilara? This is family. Family. The word fell heavy, worn out from misuse. I met his gaze and said quietly, family doesn't demand sacrifice without acknowledgement. He laughed, uneasy. You're reactive. I didn't argue. I just hung up. For the first time in my life, I didn't need their permission to end the conversation. They'd written a role for me, the helper, the quiet one, the fixer. Tonight, I quit the part. Have you ever been trapped by what others expect you to be until you chose to stop? The house was utterly still when I stepped outside. The air was sharp, almost metallic. I turned on the porch light, its glow washing over the Halloween decorations still strung along the railing. Evan's Lego tower was safe in the corner. Luna's crayon ghost watched from the doorway. I picked it up and pinned it next to the doorbell. A small guardian for a new era. I looked at my reflection in the glass, a woman who had stopped asking for understanding and started building evidence. I whispered to the quiet, tomorrow, they'll realize I stopped playing my part. Then I smiled. And I'll decide what I'll ask for in return. What cost would you refuse to pay, just so someone could say you belonged? Shared time. You turned a quiet decision into a loud boundary. The cafe was too warm, too quiet, like a waiting room for a diagnosis you already suspected. I spotted Casey at the corner table, 2 mugs between us, steam curling up like questions unasked. She slid a thick envelope across the table. You asked, she said softly, these are the receipts I found for you. I looked down. The folder was neatly labeled in her careful print, Lowell, Vance Loans and Transfers. Inside, itemized payments, printouts of emails, copies of wire transactions, my accounts, their vacations, tuition, and interest-free bridge loans that somehow never bridged back. Casey leaned forward. Your mother used the same tricks on me. Told me I'd understand when I had kids. That it was just family helping family. I laughed, dry and hollow. That was me. My voice trembled, not from surprise, but from memory. Kindness was my leash. Have you ever helped someone and later realized you were just doing their job, for free, with a smile, and without credit? I took a sip of bitter coffee. Casey watched me, waiting, giving space. Then her eyes flicked toward the door. Across the cafe, Diane sat with a latte she wasn't drinking and a magazine she wasn't reading. Her eyes stayed locked on us. Diane? I asked, not turning my head. Casey's reply was a whisper. She knew. Twice now. The blood drained from my fingers as I remembered Diane nodding silently when Margot asked if I could float the deposit for Tom's wedding caterer last year. I'd brushed it off. Family, right? I rose halfway from my chair, sat again. I turned to Casey. Why didn't she say anything? She said she had to survive, Casey muttered. I guess watching someone else carry the weight is easier than refusing to lift it yourself. I stared at Diane. She gave a weak, guilty smile like a child caught drawing on a wall. Survival by denial is still betrayal. I closed the folder, the clip crushing under my thumb. Flashbacks ran like a slideshow, me babysitting through flu, buying diapers for a cousin's baby shower they forgot to invite me to, wiring money for dad's business just for the month. Casey stirred her drink. That's not charity, Ilara. That's freight. Every I got you from my family wasn't love. It was logistics. They didn't want support. They wanted a structure. And I was the beam they never checked for cracks. I stood, the chair legs screeching. The cafe fell quiet for half a beat. I didn't care. What's the heaviest favor you've done for someone you loved, and never got thanked for? Outside, the clouds had already broken. A wet breeze carried the scent of cedar and last week's regret. I opened my purse and pulled out a weathered notebook. The front read in ink I'd pressed too hard, Ilara Vance, not your silent subsidy. I flipped to a blank page. I wrote one line, I was the secret safety net. Now I'm the boundary. I tapped a message to Casey, start scanning these for the audit folder. She nodded without hesitation. They had asked me for forgiveness before they ever gave me respect. Now, they get what I chose: distance, records, silence with a spine. Tomorrow, I would confront them. Not in rage, not in pleading, just fact. And I wouldn't ring the bell. Did you ever realize someone's kindness was really control in disguise? Share a time you helped, but then asked yourself if you were paying rent instead of love. At 9 p.m., my phone buzzed with a FaceTime notification: Tom Vance. The name alone made my jaw tighten. I almost ignored it, but curiosity, or maybe closure, made me swipe. The screen lit up with the glow of a chandelier, all gold and glass. Margot and Gerald sat under it, champagne flutes raised, soft laughter mixing with clinking silver. Tom's voice came through, overly cheerful: "Hey sis, you're not jealous, right?" Behind him, a waiter in white carried a silver platter. The sound of distant violin music bled through the call. I tilted my camera up, letting my face fill the screen. My kitchen light was dim, the kids' drawings taped behind me like witness statements. "Congratulations on the trip," I said, voice flat as slate. For a brief second, Margot's smile cracked. Her eyes darted to Gerald, then back to me, her mouth reforming into its polite curve. "Thank you, sweetheart," she said, too smoothly. "We're celebrating family." Family. The word echoed through the phone like a dare. Inside, my thoughts pressed sharp. They made space for 6. And left me for 7. Have you ever called into someone's happiness and felt invisible? Tom swiveled the phone, showing off the table. "See, everyone's here," he said. "Everyone but me." Margot raised her glass. "To the Vance family, stronger than ever." Gerald echoed it, smug and proud. I smiled tightly. "Funny," I said, "because fewer of us are here." The air shifted. Gerald's brow nodded. "Don't twist the narrative, Alara. You said you weren't going." There it was, the rehearsed line. "I didn't say I wasn't going," I said slowly, each word cutting through the static. "I said I wasn't asked." Silence. Even the violin seemed to pause. Diane shifted uncomfortably beside Tom. He reached for his wine glass instead of meeting my gaze. Margot broke the pause with her usual syrup. "You know how travel planning is, these things just happen. You could have joined if you really wanted to." "If I really wanted to," I repeated, almost to myself. "You used my name to fund the trip." Gerald leaned closer to the camera. "You're playing the victim again. This isn't healthy." My throat burned, but my voice stayed calm. Healthy is not being erased from a meal I paid for. Diane murmured something, maybe my name, maybe regret. I didn't care. I held the camera steady for 5 more seconds, watching their faces freeze mid-toast. Then I said, "Enjoy the meal. I'll pair it with the truth tomorrow." The call went still, but Margot's voice came one more time, soft, cutting. "If you think this was misuse, Alara, feel free to pursue it." It was a slap wrapped in a smile. I looked directly at her. "Thank you for the invitation," I said. Then I ended the call. The screen went black. The silence afterward felt bigger than any room they were sitting in. I stood, pacing past Evan's Lego fortress and Luna's ghost mask hanging on the wall. My life in plastic bricks and paper edges. I stopped and whispered, "This is my table now." I sat down at my desk, opened my laptop, and clicked into the folder, Vance 2025 Audit. I uploaded the screenshot of the call, timestamped 2107 Central European Summertime. Then I drafted an email to my attorney. Subject, New evidence. Body, video call recording attached. Statement follows. My cursor blinked on the last sentence. They drank champagne from funds I provided. I'll sip justice. I hit send. Outside, the Portland rain began to fall, soft, unbothered. When you're invited to dinner but seated at the wrong table, how do you respond? Do you stay quiet for peace, or do you reclaim your seat somewhere else entirely? Tomorrow they'd wake up and find their chairs empty. The sound of my own breath woke me. Not a noise in the house, just my chest tightening, my heart catching on a name, Tom. I blinked, checked the time, 2:11 a.m. 2 unread texts lit the lock screen. Sorry, sis. Let it go. I didn't move for a full minute. Then I sat up, bare feet touching the cool floor. The rain whispered outside, steady against the window. I unlocked my laptop and opened the folder I now knew by heart, Vance 2025 Audit. There it was, deep in the subfolder Casey sent me 3 nights ago, one file I hadn't opened yet. The title was quiet but unmistakable. Tom_Vance Jr. Debts _under_Lara SSN.XLSX. I clicked. There it was. My name, my social security number, across multiple creditor logs, repayment delays, loan approvals. Each one linked to Tom. Hidden behind family restructuring. Dated as far back as 2018. My hands hovered over the keyboard. I whispered to the room, I'm doing this tonight. Have you ever lied in your sleep, only to wake knowing the truth? My chest ached as I dug in deeper, tracing each transaction. Shell companies, cross-transfers, vague memos like family relocation support. They'd painted it as generosity. But this was a siphon. A slow bleed from my name. I began labeling transactions, one by one. Red for direct fraud. Yellow for suspicious. Blue for just unethical. The spreadsheet bloomed into a heat map of betrayal. Unjust enrichment, Vance family entities. I gave the file its name and saved it twice, once on my desktop, once to an encrypted USB-labeled peace offering. I heard Casey's voice in my mind, from our last call, you think they'll fold when you push? I didn't answer then. But now I did, aloud. Yes. Fear used to keep me quiet. But now? Proof made them silent. I pressed send on the bank audit request. A 6-paragraph letter attached, document links embedded. I requested review, restitution, and a fraud flag placed on my SSN. My phone buzzed again. A message from Margot. We're worried about you. The irony struck like lightning. I exhaled slowly. No more cover, I said aloud. This time I'm exposed to be free. I stood, past Evan's Lego masterpiece still guarding the hallway, then Luna's ghost mask, its smile crooked and permanent. What's the first document you'd send if you decided enough was enough? I shut the laptop. Outside, the rain slowed. Then stopped. The silence was dense, like the air had thickened in understanding. I looked in the hallway mirror. I used to be the fixer. The peacemaker. The one who called first, forgave first, paid first. But tonight? I was the record keeper. The one writing the truth, not waiting to be told what it was. Upstairs, I kissed Evan's forehead. Then Luna's. She murmured something in her sleep, Mom? I whispered back, Mom's got a job now. Downstairs again, I locked the file cabinet labeled Family Archives. The keys trembled for a second in my hand, but I held firm. No one fights when they believe you'll stay silent. I'm choosing otherwise. The file was written. The email sent. The audit requested. And in the morning, I knew the first reply would arrive. The subject line would be sharp. Probably, urgent, unauthorized activity. I was ready to open it. The car door slammed before the headlights even cut across the front lawn. I knew that sound before I saw their faces. Margot first, arms stiff at her sides. Then Gerald's broad shoulders, Tom's lanky silhouette, and Diane trailing, face unreadable. They were back. From Paris. From the vacation they thought I wouldn't notice. From the mess I had swept up for years. They climbed the steps. My porch light glowed against the gray Portland dusk. I opened the door before they could knock, already knowing why they'd come. Margot offered a faint smile. "Elara, can we talk? We missed you." Her voice was smooth, but her eyes scanned me like I was paperwork to be filed. "You missed me," I said, keeping my tone even, "or you missed the version of me that didn't ask questions? Has someone ever shown up asking for forgiveness, but you felt they only wanted something else?" Margot lifted a photo from her purse, one of me, maybe 10 years old, toothy grin beside a younger Tom. She held it out like it was proof. "We've changed," she said softly. "We want you back." Gerald added quickly, "The kids, ours and yours, miss their aunt. It's not the same." I nodded once. "You found a home using my money," I said. "But somehow there was never room for me." Diane spoke up suddenly. "It's not about money, Elara. Maybe it's envy." I stared at her, hard. "You think this is about jealousy?" She shrugged. "You always got so serious. So dramatic." My breath caught in my throat, but I didn't flinch. My internal voice cut through, they set me up for guilt, and when guilt failed, they chose blame. "I said we could talk," I replied, "but not like this." I stepped aside, walked to the small porch table, and pulled out a folder I'd tucked under my arm. I laid out the documents, copies of bank statements, wire transfers, loan approvals, all in my name, none with my consent. I pointed to the pages. "Do you see what you built your idea of family on?" Tom shifted, started to speak, then stopped. Margot looked pale. Gerald's jaw clenched. Diane looked at the photo she was still holding and slowly slid it back into her bag. "You drank champagne under chandeliers in Paris," I said. "Meanwhile I was paying for houses I never saw, loans I never signed, and dinners I never got invited to. What would you show someone if you needed them to believe you for once?" Margot stepped toward me, eyes sharp. "You're making a spectacle of us." "No," I said clearly. "I'm reclaiming my story." She opened her mouth again, but I was done. I turned, hand on the door handle. "I didn't ask you to come," I said over my shoulder. I stepped inside. Closed the door. Not a slam. But deliberate. The click echoed louder than anything they had said. The silence after was the loudest thing I'd heard all week. I leaned against the door and let out a long breath. The first drops of rain returned, tapping on the windows like applause. I didn't slam it. But I locked it. Tomorrow, they'll knock. And I won't answer. Have you ever walked away while someone shouted your name and you knew you were free? Tell me, did you close the door, or did someone open it for you? The morning after the door closed, peace lasted 6 hours. By noon, the next blow landed. I opened the mailbox to find a plain white envelope, no return address, no handwriting I recognized. Inside was a single printed screenshot. a private group chat. My name highlighted in blue. Diane's message at the top, maybe Alara needs help. She's been off lately. My stomach turned cold. That sentence wasn't about concern, it was about control. The comments underneath came from familiar names, an aunt, a neighbor, someone who taught piano lessons to my kids. Polite pity disguised as gossip. I read it twice, then a third time. The words didn't sting, they clarified. They weren't just taking my money anymore. They were taking my narrative. Inside my head, I heard it plain, they're not just stealing from me. They're rewriting who I am. I pulled out my phone, scrolled to Diane's thread, and deleted it without replying. Not because I was afraid, but because I didn't need to defend myself inside their version of me. What would you delete or hide if someone stole your identity, and your honor? I hadn't finished my coffee when the next hit came. A Facebook notification. Margot had tagged me in a post. Caption, when you're family, you must understand sacrifice. Underneath, she'd attached an old photo, me at 18, smiling with my diploma, her arm around my shoulder like a proud mother. The comments flooded in within minutes. So sad when kids forget where they came from. She's probably just overwhelmed. Poor Margot, always giving so much. The performance was perfect. Every word designed to sound like love while cutting like glass. I took a screenshot, then another. My hands didn't shake this time. I called my lawyer. Yes, I said, this qualifies as defamation and harassment. No, I don't want to reply. I want it documented. When I hung up, I whispered to the empty living room, they turned their guilt into my shame and served it publicly. Have you ever been attacked, not physically, but with words you never said? By afternoon, I called Luna and Evan into the kitchen. They sat side by side, coloring at the table. I knelt down to their level. You might hear things about me, I said softly. Come to me first, okay? Always me. Luna looked up, her big eyes serious. Mommy, are you okay? I smiled. Yes, sweetheart. I'm choosing to be okay. She held up her ghost mask again, the one from Halloween that never got put away. I kissed her forehead. I opened my laptop, the same one that held every receipt, every screenshot, every file I had built over months. I showed them a folder on the desktop, protection plan, for us. This is how I'm keeping us safe, I said. Not scared, just safe. Inside my mind, the thought pulsed steady, standing up for them meant standing up to them. I printed one final document, my official statement. To Margot and Gerald Vance, this serves as formal notification that all accounts, transfers, and claims involving my identity are under legal review. Contact is to be made through counsel only. I sealed it in an envelope, signed my name across the flap, and placed it by the door for pickup. Minutes later, I heard faint footfalls outside, too light for delivery, too deliberate for coincidence. I didn't check. I simply locked the door. By evening, the house was quiet again. I made dinner for Evan and Luna. The soft clatter of forks and laughter filled the space that used to ache with their absence. Outside, rain pattered steadily on the porch roof. I thought, it's raining outside. Inside, I'm not waiting anymore. The Halloween decorations still hung along the window. I'd thought about taking them down, but now, I saw them differently. Not childish. Not nostalgic. Just mine. I typed a short message to Casey. Mission update, boundary established. Then I whispered to the darkened room, they tried to define my past. I'm defining my future. The clock ticked quietly. I opened my email one last time and hit send on the final demand letter to my family's attorney. The sound of the click was clean. And then the world got quiet. Too quiet. What line have you drawn that finally set you free? Share it, because in your silence, someone else holds the script. The air had the soft crispness only late October brings. I carried the pumpkin out to the porch, its smile jagged, lopsided, charming in its imperfection. Evan skipped beside me, holding the carving spoon like a sword. Luna trailed close, giggling behind her ghost mask that had become a staple these past weeks. My hands didn't shake. No lingering tremble from stress or grief. Just steady, firm. I set the pumpkin down and lit the candle inside. The flame flickered to life, and in that second, I felt it, peace that wasn't borrowed. It was mine. For years, Halloween was a reminder of what I didn't get, I whispered to myself. Tonight, it's what I decide. I strung fairy lights around the doorframe, tiny warm bulbs glowing like tiny defiant suns. For the first time, this house didn't wear borrowed tradition or perform for obligation. It shimmered with chosen joy. I turned on the music, soft Motown. A beat that never needed anyone's permission to feel good. The doorbell rang, and I opened it to find neighborhood kids, some masked, some not, smiling up at me. Trick or treat! I laughed, handed out candy, and waved them off. One mother lingered. Glad to see you out here this year. I smiled, simple and genuine. Me too. Have you ever taken back a tradition, on your own terms? Later, I found a letter in the mailbox, tucked into a pumpkin-shaped card. It was from Mrs. Holbrook, the neighbor who once turned her back when Margot posted about me. Your kids' laughter reminded me what matters. I'm sorry I didn't knock sooner. I didn't cry. I didn't need to. I read it under porch light, not because I needed validation, but because I knew I'd welcome honesty when it came. Inside, on my hallway shelf, old photo albums gathered dust. The family they showed no longer lived in this version of me. I closed them gently and let them be. Next to them, I placed a new name tag. It wasn't for work or events. It was mine, handwritten on cardstock, Alara Vance, author of my own story. I snapped a photo and texted it to Casey. Tonight, I glow myself. Evan sprinted ahead down the sidewalk, his candy bag bouncing with each step. Luna twirled beside me, her ghost costume catching the wind. We walked block by block, porch to porch. Tonight we go, I told them, but we decide the light. At one house, an older couple waved from rocking chairs, handing out cider. I accepted a cup and nodded my thanks. They didn't ask why I came alone. They just smiled like they were glad I did. Some of the parents on the sidewalk knew my name from whispered conversations or shared posts. But none asked. And for once, I didn't brace for it. I didn't scan their faces for judgment. I simply walked. I didn't escape my past. I chose a new table. Back home, after the candy was sorted and costumes hung, I tucked Evan into bed. He threw his arms around me, breath still sugar-sweet. Mom, he murmured, thanks for tonight. I kissed his forehead. You're welcome, sweet moon. Luna was already snoring softly under her blanket, her ghost mask still clutched in one hand. Downstairs, I lit the pumpkin again and sat on the porch swing. The fairy lights glowed. The wind hummed through the trees. I thought about everything, files, betrayals, names thrown like stones. And then, I let the thoughts float away. I wasn't erased. I wasn't replaced. I was rewritten, and this time, by me. I closed my eyes, pulled the blanket tighter around my shoulders, and breathed in the quiet. Not the kind forced by fear, but the kind chosen by freedom. And tomorrow, when someone asks why I celebrate alone, I'll answer, because I can. What tradition did you reclaim for yourself? If you wrote your own invitation, what would it say?